Welcome to another Indie Dev Showcase, highlighting the many indie games we play here on the channel. If you'd like to submit a game for a future video, please reach out. But otherwise, let's begin. For our first game of the showcase, this is Patch Quest. Please keep in mind that the footage you are seeing is taken from the early access when we played it, may not represent the current version of it. However, the game was released into 1.0 as of March of 2023. This is described as a bullet hell roguelite Metroidvania monster collector style game. You are exploring a mysterious area made of all kinds of patchwork tiles and different enemies. Fortunately for you, you can capture any enemy in the game using your monster taming lasso. While you're on a monster, that monster itself will become kind of your main character, with his abilities or its abilities on the right hand side. You can also pick up various fruit, which will fire out of your gun, which in turn will also impact different properties and affect enemies differently. Every monster can be upgraded by leveling up, and you'll need to make use of a variety of them to tame the various areas, as well as unlock more of the shortcuts, routes, and so on. Permanent progress comes in the form of leveling up your different monsters, as well as getting various patches, which when they're equipped, will change your character in different ways. The game is also available for multiplayer, and while it may not look in the footage we're showing, it can get very challenging. They do describe this as a bullet hell for a reason. All in all, from our time spent on this, I didn't spend as much time on it that I would like, and I do want to go back to this one now that it's at 1.0, but this looks to be a very entertaining action roguelike, and if you did miss it, I would at least give this one a check. We go from battling and collecting monsters to something a lot more cozy with Apico. This is a kind of slice of life farming or cultivating sim in a similar vein of that to the Harvest Moon, Stardew Valleys, and so on. But we aren't going to be growing a farm and dealing with fruits and vegetables. Instead, we are going to raise and cross-pollinate and breed bees. Now, this is a game where you have been set up on an island with the task of becoming the next big beekeeper. And you're going to do that as with all these games, building yourself a home, collecting lots and lots of items, and completing multiple tasks. So the game itself is set up in terms of progression around these different books. The books themselves act as both campaign and tutorial, which is a really nice touch, as you can go back to previous chapters to review elements if you forgot about. Beat a task, you unlock the next part of that book, get to the end of the book, and you'll get a new one, with each book focusing on different aspects of it. And once you're done getting your home set up, get those shovels and axes and all that in order, you can then start building beehives and using various queens in order to pollinate and crossbreed the different species of bees on the island. Now, from what we played of this one, I didn't quite see if there was like an actual, major progression beyond just raising bees for bees' sake. And the game itself is definitely not set up to be difficult in any way, shape, or form. This is not going to be a game where you're going to be in a life or death struggle with your bees and their honey. All in all, while the game itself may be a little too quiet and peaceful for someone like me, if you are a fan of very charming, very low-stakes games, and you're not afraid of bees, I would definitely give this one a check. And as an interesting point, the developer is working on a follow-up where we're going to be raising frogs. So if you don't like bees, you may want to wait for that one and get hopping from there. We now have Voodoo Detective. This is a point-and-click adventure game where you play as the titular Voodoo Detective. His latest case involves a woman who has lost her memory, a mysterious amulet, and something strange going on in the area. And in order to get to the bottom of it, we are going to have to point, click, puzzle solve, and of course, voodoo our way around. The game itself is definitely designed in terms of its adventure game logic and design around the LucasArts style, so Monkey Island, in that particular realm of puzzle solving. You will be given a lot of different areas to explore, various clues, and of course having to pick up anything and everything that isn't nailed down in order to use it on different puzzles. From what we played of this one, it is going again for being more of a traditional point-and-click adventure, so there's a lot in terms of puzzle solving and again the weird logic that you don't have to figure things out. I like the art style of this one, and all in all, while we didn't get to play a lot of this one just because of how lengthy an adventure game is, it did look like it's going to be another great example for fans of the genre. So if you are a fan of classic adventure game design and have an interest in Voodoo, then Voodoo Detective is definitely one worth checking out. And with that said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back we have 3 more games for our showcase. If you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, be sure to check out my game design books. For entry-level students, we have 20 essential games to study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with more coming soon. We now have Opatra, which hopefully I didn't butcher that too badly. This was a student game demo that was submitted last year. And what this is a Metroidvania kind of built around Moroccan themes and architecture. We apparently play as a boy made out of sugar, who is lost in a palace, and we're going to have to try and figure out what is going on by, well, jumping and moving around. So this one as a demo didn't really give us a whole lot to go on. You'll have to kind of move your way around, and as you can see, some of the physics here and there can be a little bit weird. From what we played, it's going to be focused more on kind of movement and puzzle solving rather than on the actual combat focus. I like the theme of this one. Unfortunately, because of the limitations of the demo, we really didn't get a chance to see a whole lot in terms of mechanics. I'm not sure if there is a full or even just partially finished game out now, but the demo at least serves some interesting aspects to it, and if it does get moved or things do get moved forward, I would be interested in at least playing more of it and kind of seeing what other unique aspects this game can have beyond just the storytelling and aesthetics. We now have Zodiac. This game is in early access and may not represent the current version that you're seeing here. But what we have, as you can tell very quickly, is a shooter that is somewhat reminiscent of a classic SNES and Nintendo series involving barrel rolls and animals flying spaceships. But seriously speaking, this is an indie take on the Star Fox style, complete with lasers, barrel rolls, dodging, and trying to do your best to fight giant bosses. As a very interesting point, this is not the only Star Fox light that I've played over the last year or so. As we were going through Zodiac, we could only play a few levels at the time of checking out on the stream. All in all, this is certainly looking like a very great and very challenging take on this formula. Now keep in mind that what you're seeing here, this is not a randomly generated or procedurally generated game. You have a full-on map, you'll be able to choose which levels to do, and of course you'll probably want to play through every level to see all the challenges and bosses you have to fight. With that said, Zodiac knows what it wants to be, and if you're someone who loves barrel rolls, spaceships, and flying straight ahead, then definitely check out this game. For our last game of this week's episode, we turn to Forza Polpo. This is another game that was inspired by a classic game of the 90s, and this one in particular is Jumping Flash. The kind of MO of this style is first-person platforming with a very heavy focus on wide jumping and very huge environments to explore. It is the year 1990X, and Japan has been struck by a very big apocalypse. and only our little robot here can make sense out of it all and save the day. Your mission is to collect various objects that are hidden throughout each one of the game's very big levels. You can regain energy by collecting various pink items around, and your energy is constantly kind of ticking down as you're moving, jumping, and so on. While the game definitely gives an appearance of being a very light and breezy style game, it is a bit on the challenging side. If you're not used to this kind of first person perspective with your platforming, it can be very easy to miss time jumps, over and undershoot, and all that. Now, the footage that you are seeing is taken from the game in early access, but it was released in early 2023 and we have not had a chance to go back and check out 1.0. The main thing with Forza Polpo, besides the kind of energy drain making things even harder, is that if you're not used to this style of first person or 3D platforming, it can be a little bit funky. As I said, you can definitely mistime your jumps and over and undershoot platforms. And even from my time playing with it, I definitely missed quite a few. All in all, I would say that if you're looking for a very different kind of platforming, and don't mind again this kind of very wide focus, then I would at least give Forza Polpo a check. But if you're looking for something that is more kind of movement tech heavy or obstacle focus, this one may not be the right one for you. And with that, we're going to wrap up this week's showcase. You'll find links to all the games down below. Be sure to do the liking, subscribing, and YouTubing stuff. Let me tell your game for a future stream and video, please reach out. Visit our Discord and Patreon, and be sure to come back for daily sessions on game design here and on game wisdom, where we some of the art and science of games.